Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. We're so excited you joined us for the Friends and Fiction official book club for a really wonderful night with a very special book. I'm Brenda and co-host of the book club, and with me tonight is a special co-host, Meg, who's managing director of Friends and Fiction.
Hi, it's great to be here, you guys, and I can't wait to talk about The Secret Book of Flora with the amazing Patti Callahan Henry.
Oh, I know. I can't wait either. And I'm sure everyone will notice that our normal co-host Lisa is missing, but she is out with surgery, but she's doing well. And she's given us some questions that we'll be asking Patti shortly. So in the meantime, we got Meg as our special co-host.
Yeah, I'll try not to screw it up, you guys, I promise.
I'm sure you'll do great, Meg. And to begin with, would you like to introduce our guest, Patti?
Sure, I would love to. Patti Callahan Henry is a New York Times, Globe and Mail, and USA Today bestselling author of 17 novels, including her newest, The Secret Book of Flora. She has also hosted original podcasts based on her novels Surviving Savannah and Becoming Mrs. Lewis. She is the recipient of the Christie Book of the Year Award, the Harper Lee Distinguished Writer of the Year, and the Alabama Library Association Book of the Year for Becoming Mrs. Lewis. She is the co-host and co-creator, not that I should have to tell any of y'all, of the popular weekly online Friends and Fiction web show and podcast. She has contributed to numerous anthologies and short story collections, written loads of articles, including a series for Parade magazine with her Friends and Fiction pals, and has written an Audible original about Florence Nightingale titled Wild Swan, which was narrated by the Tony Award winner Cynthia Erivo, who also narrates Secret Book of Flora. Anyhow, welcome, Patti.
Hey, Patti, welcome to.
I'm coming. I'm trying to make it work. Okay, there we go.
Hi.
Oh, she's here.
So
it's so funny to hear Meg read that. Meg. So Meg has had to go up, not had to. Meg and I went on book tour for a while. And so she sat through that bio like 9 to 15 times.
That gave her excellent preparation.
Yeah.
Now
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm looking forward to such a wonderful evening. And I have to tell you, Patti, before we even get started, that I thought Flora Lee was just such an exquisite book. It was so intricately woven. I could feel the magic of Benzie, the blanket of fear in London, the grief, kind of hovering tangibly around Hazel. It was just remarkable.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
I just love that.
Yeah, those were all my favorite things to write. So I'm glad they were your favorite things to read. So thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Now, I know that we do spoilers on the program, but only after 7:15. And a few people are joining us who haven't read the book yet. So we'd like to see if you could give us a summary of the book. And book club members, while she's doing that, if you have questions for her tonight, put them in the chat.
All right. Here we go. The Secret Book of Flora Lee. Come with me. The year is 1939, and we are in Bloomsbury, England. We are right outside of London on Mecklenburgh Square, where we meet the Linden family. We meet Hazel, who is 14 years old, and her little sister, Flora Lee, who is 5 years old. And they have just found out that an edict has come down from the government called Operation Pied Piper. And in Operation Pied Piper, all children must be sent away from the large cities in England to the countryside to be kept safe from the expected incoming German bombs. Now, Operation Pied Piper was such a massive scheme that over 800,000 children were sent away in 4 days. 800,000 children in 4 days. If I can figure out how to play this video, there are pictures of them. They left with nothing but a knapsack carrying the clothes that they had, could fit, a luggage tag tied around their neck that said where they were from and who their parents were. But the back was empty about where they would go because they had no idea. They carried a gas mask, and they boarded trains together, headed off. They knew not where, north, south, east, west, to end up with whatever family took them in. Well, Hazel and Flora Lee got lucky, and they ended up with the Aberdeen family, a mom named Bridie and a young son named Harry, who was 15 years old. They lived in a small hamlet called Binsey, right outside of Oxford University in the Oxfordshire countryside, right on the River Thames. It was a magical setting, and they got a beautiful family, but they were still exiled from their own family. So Hazel made up a fairy tale world for Flora Lee, a fairy tale world called Whisperwood and the River of Stars. In Whisperwood, they could be anything they pleased: a bird, an owl, a fox, a chipmunk. They could talk to trees. They could head towards the castle that was far off. This was a secret land between only the two of them. Nobody else knew about Whisperwood. A year went by, and the unthinkable happened when Flora Lee, 5 years old, disappeared from the banks of the River Thames. It was assumed that she drowned, and Hazel blamed herself because she believed that Flora Lee went to look for Whisperwood and the River of Stars. She kept that secret to herself. She carried the guilt. 20 years goes by, and we are now in London. It is 1960, and the world is on the precipice of huge change, and Hazel is working in an antiquarian bookshop. She's working in the back room when a package comes in. She unwraps the parchment paper, unties a red ribbon, and sees beautiful original illustrations for a fairy tale book. She slides aside the illustrations, and she sees it is an American fairy tale, rare first edition, called Whisperwood and the River of Stars. And that's what it's about. How did this, what? Go ahead.
When I get the chills every time.
I get chills every time I tell it.
I know
And-
what happens, but I know what happens because I read it.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
know
about-
too, but I could
Yeah,
still hear it 100 times, I think.
I know. I loved it. And just to echo what Brenda said, I love the book so much, and I have now recommended it to so many people, and they keep coming back to me, to a man, and saying that they were just captivated. People love it. People are enchanted by this book, Patti. So bravo.
They so are, and you've got all kinds of love going in the chat right now, hearts and
Aw.
thumbs up, and
That's awesome.
everyone
sending it
loves
back.
this story.
And I meant to bring, I'm not at home now, and I meant to bring, Meg, do you have them with you, the illustrations that the
No,
publishing house did?
never got them.
Oh,
They're
I know they sent you some. But these illustrations, if you go on my Instagram, I posted them.
so beautiful.
They're so beautiful. So Atria had these beautiful illustrations done up, like to pretend they were the illustrations that are in the novel that made Hazel find out that the fairy tale survived. So what does that mean about her sister if the fairy tale survived?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're in
well,
live
speaking
history.
Well, speaking of illustrations, Patty, Lisa asked a question in her absence about the cover of Secret Book of Flora Lee. And I know, right there. And but what some people might not know is there are different covers for the book in different countries. Her question is, how involved are you in the process for each cover? And I'm going to show a picture of 3. And she would like to know what your favorite is, along with our book club members, if you'd like to share in the chat. Here
I'd
they
love to
are.
know. Oh, there they are with all their little bestseller things. That
Yes.
makes me so happy. Yes, the one on the left is, or for me on the left, is the American cover. The one in the middle is the Canadian cover. And the one on the right is the Australian cover. And I just saw the cover for, I have 9 other countries. So those covers are coming in. I think I just saw the cover for Norway. I can't remember.
Wow.
And it's really sweet. It's a little girl running through a forest. So it's fascinating how each country has, what I'm dying to see is the cover for Israel and France.
Oh,
How are they going to imagine it? But what's my favorite? I mean, I just have to say American because I mean, I have been living with that cover and I feel as if I can walk into it, right? The river. I just have such a fondness for the things they did with that cover. And in real life, if y'all have a hardcover copy, the river shimmers and even the horizon shimmers.
Yeah.
All the blue in the book is shimmery. And then inside are the most beautiful end papers. And in the Barnes and Noble Special Book Club edition, the end papers are hand colored.
Oh,
But
wow.
I have not held the Australian book in my hand. And the Canadian book is gorgeous because it has French flaps and deckled edges. So it's beautiful in person also.
Oh, Meg, what do you think? What's your favorite?
I think I feel the same way as Patty. I'm just so used to looking at the US edition, and I love it so much, and it just feels like a part of me now. I don't know. The
Yeah,
other,
doesn't it, Beck? I know.
yes, yeah. I love to see the other countries' interpretations, and I think they're all just perfectly lovely, like really pretty. And I think it's fascinating how the Canadian edition used the same exact typeface. Like the title
Yes.
treatment was exactly the same. They just did a different interpretation with the flowers and the foliage. And the Australian edition is beautiful. I mean, look at that gold. And I wonder if it's foil in person.
I know, I'm dying to see it. And if you look closely, you can see I'm pointing at the screen like
Yeah, the bunny and the bird and
yeah, there's a owl and a bunny and yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That
I'm
makes
so
it pretty cool.
partial to
Lisa's
art.
favorite was that one. Her favorite was the Australian edition. And there's a lot of comments in the chat about favorites, primarily the US version because of the river and the shimmer, but lots of love for all of them.
They're just all
And
beautiful.
I know they really are. And I can't find the person who asked the question because they're going by too fast. But how does it come that there are different covers in each country?
It's a really fascinating, and Meg was in on it because she's, Meg and I work together, so she sees every single email, poor thing. But I was usually the American cover and the Canadian cover are the same. Usually, since they're both Simon and Schuster, they're the same. Like the Australian version is HarperCollins, but the other two, usually they're the same. But each country knows its readership better and knows, the marketing studies that show what they respond to. And so the Canadian cover with the Canadian team, which is amazing. My Canadian team is like amazing. They just said, we feel like our readers would respond to this better than the softer green of this. And they know their audience, and they do a lot of marketing studies. But I have to tell you, here's something really interesting. I had a really long talk with my editor about a month after the book came out, just celebrating how well it did and hitting the list twice and the numbers. And she admitted to me that they were nervous about this cover because usually, like, they felt it was perfect. But usually in historical fiction, there's a woman on the cover. And they didn't do it. And she said they felt like they were kind of taking a chance, and it worked. So, and none of the others put a woman either. So yeah, it worked.
I'm so glad, because it's like that is starting to feel, I don't know.
Done.
Played out a little bit, because it's just how many women from the back or
and Meg, my last two.
I know. And
my last three had a woman.
And so many successful books and so many authors we love have that. I'm not disparaging it. I'm just saying, like, there's got to be another way to interpret these stories.
Exactly. And they did. They interpreted it a new way, and then but felt like they were kind of rolling the dice and felt like it worked. So it's fun to talk about covers. I think it's interesting.
I know. For a second about the tour, Patty, because we had such a big fun time together on the road, and we drove so many miles to so many cities. The crowds were amazing. The enthusiasm out there for you and for this book was just palpable. So I'd love to hear from you, like, what was your favorite thing about book tour? And did you have any particular highlights you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, I mean, I know I posted about it, but a long soliloquy to Meg, like a sonnet to Meg Walker. But I couldn't have done the first 10 days without her. And if you noticed, my social media took a deep plummet after she left me. But it was so extraordinary. Meg and I are still talking about how it felt kissed by, I don't know what, the sun. We didn't have one day of rain.
Yeah, that
Did
part
not
was
have
remarkable.
one day. We had 28 stops, not one day of rain. It started pouring rain when I pulled into my driveway at the end of tour. It was crazy. We didn't have one glitch. We weren't late. I didn't have a missed flight.
Nothing.
It was incredible.
I mean, no traffic jams, nothing.
It was amazing. I had one traffic jam in Florida for like 15 minutes. But it was an extraordinary 28 stops, and I have some more coming up, and I have a whole another week and a half in August. But to know, I get choked up, to know that somebody left their house, got dressed, brushed their hair, maybe, and showed up for me. I just over and over, and friends in fiction in their t-shirts and with their best friends. And I mean, that was the highlight. I mean, it was people showing up and our community showing up. We went to bed. We finished every night with a big smile and like, we are the luckiest. Yeah. It was extraordinary.
And I think the Friends in Fiction live event in Charleston had to be the highlight. And what a way to kick it all off. It was really incredible.
It was
Just the
incredible.
energy in the room, Brenda, you were there too. Lisa was there. So many Friends in Fiction people. And I don't know, those
People came
events.
from far and wide and
Far, and that's right.
That's right.
They came from everywhere, from the West Coast, from Rhode Island, from I can't even remember where. It was amazing.
And I love seeing that everybody loves seeing each other. I joke that we're just an excuse for the party, which is fine. It's great, but we love seeing it. I came down and met y'all in the bar in the book club.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I love seeing. I love seeing that everybody loves seeing each other just as much. So.
Oh, that is, yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty special. Well, Patti, we have reached and passed the spoiler mark. So we haven't even asked you any questions about the plot yet, but I did want to let everyone know we are going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, please mute the volume or do what you need to do. But we had an advanced question that I wanted to ask you, and this is Patricia Steffen who asked, this is starting at the beginning. She said, I'd be interested to know if the opening lines, not very long ago and not very far away, just came to you, or did you struggle with getting it just right? The same with Whisperwood, River of Stars, and even the name Flora Lee, all so perfect.
Oh, wow. I have to tell you, I've been on the road for weeks and weeks and nobody has asked me that. And that is a damn fine question. Because each of those has a little story. I'll try to make it quick. So the opening line's not very long. Yes. No, those literally just came to me. I was like, I'm going to make a fairy not very long ago and not very far away. There once was and still is, like boom, 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 boom. The very first scene I ever wrote, and I have very fond memories of it. I was in the mountains and I was with our beloved Mary Kay, and we were having a writing retreat, and it was still COVID it was maybe late 2020. So we were still being careful and not being out in the world. And I wrote the opening scene, which is Hazel making up that fairy tale world for Flora Lee. That's the first scene I ever wrote. And those lines just came to me. Now, the second story, where did Whisperwood and the River of Stars come from? I knew only one thing, that it was a fairy tale world, but I didn't have a name for it. And I had been laying awake for a couple nights thinking about it. And I said to Mary, I went outside to Mary Kay was working on the porch and I was working inside, and I had handwritten the first scene. And I took out my notebook and I read her a piece of it. And she is always brutally honest with me, and to a fault. And she said, I freaking love it. And what's the name of the fairy tale world? And I said, I don't know. All I know is that it has to be in the woodlands, and it has to be a secret, and it has to be only the two of them know about it, and it has to be in enchanted woods. And Mary Kay, if you're a regular watcher, know that she is an alliteration aficionado. And she said, well, if they have to whisper it, why not Whisperwood? And I said, that's it. So she named it. And then I named it Whisperwood and the River of Stars, because I knew that the river would be an integral part of the novel. In fact, the first title for this book was The River Child. It was The River Child when I wrote it, and it was The River Child when I sold it. It did not become The Secret Book of Flora Lee until about 6 months before the book came out, or maybe 9 months, about 9 months before the book came out. It was The River Child the whole time. And the name Flora Lee and Hazel, both I knew from the very, very beginning, because I knew that I wanted their names to be of nature, because they would be in the woodlands. And so Hazel, of course, is a nut and a tree, and Flora means flower. And then both of them have the middle name of a river in England. So Hazel is Hazel Mercy, and Mercy is a river, Mersey. And then Lee, Lea, is a river in England. So I wanted them both to have a name of nature and a name of the river. So they were Hazel Mercy and Flora Lee.
Oh,
Love that. Well,
just perfect.
yeah.
Just perfect. No, that's perfect. I also wanted to ask, because this was pretty much throughout the book, the theme of grief, you know, and Hazel, it seems to hit Hazel the hardest, but everyone kind of takes ownership of the grief about Flora Lee. Could you talk a little bit about how you navigated that in the plot? And if our book club members could share some of their thoughts as they were reading, that would be great too.
Yes. So, you know how we often talk on the show about what is the book about and what is it really about. And when I talk about that, I often say one of the things this book is really about is the guilt we carry that we don't have to carry. Right. And I have to say it, especially as women, right? We take on the responsibilities and the guilt for things that I know both of you have, right? Carried around things that weren't ours to carry, and how those things can keep us from living the life that we want to live or are meant to live, if you believe that, or the life we desire to live, or are trying to move forward in, and we're being kind of pulled back by that grief. So the main grief I explored was in Hazel, because we have her point of view. And what I'm trying to show in Hazel, when you first meet her, she is what I call a shadow artist. She is working in a bookshop. She is collecting antique pens, and she is collecting notebooks. She is hanging out in coffee shops where writers hang out, but she will not let herself create anymore, because she believes that the land she created made her sister disappear. And so that guilt is keeping her from living her best and biggest and most authentic life. The guilt the mom carries has kept her from connecting with her daughter. The guilt that Harry carries has kept him from reaching out to Hazel again, because he tried and she shunned him, and he believes that she hates him for what happened. And I'm not going to tell you why. Oh, we're doing spoilers, because they were together when
Tell us.
Because I'm so used to not saying, because they were together when Flora Lee disappeared. So that, you know, he believes that she blames him. And then Bridie, of course, blames herself because she was responsible for them and she wasn't home that day. So everybody is carrying around their own blame and shame, and none of them need to. And part of what happens in this novel, of course, is that they see, and even Flora Lee, who is, you know, she was looking for herself, which is one of my favorite parts of the book,
Yes.
is carrying around all this subconscious guilt about not being who. So everybody has something they need to just lay down to get on with their life.
Yeah. And each
And
character, I feel like, does it to varying degrees, right? Which is just the way it happens in real life. If we all live through the same trauma, each of us is going to respond to it in a different way. And I love that the mom has more successfully moved on from it than
Yes.
Hazel. But, you know, I don't know. I don't want to give away too much for anyone who hasn't read. I know we're doing spoilers, but I
Well,
think
what I
that's
love,
interesting.
Meg, you're right, because what I love about the mom is that she has never stopped grieving, right? But
Right.
she
Mhm.
has stopped blaming,
Yes.
right? There's this, I wanted her to be an example of someone who carries the grief as part of her life, but doesn't let the grief stop her from loving or living. So
Love
But
that.
Harry is interesting too, because he not only grieved and carried guilt for Flora's disappearance, but also in what could have been or, wasn't with Hazel.
yeah.
And, that spoke to me a lot too. But I tell you what, that's the scene that you wrote where, and we got spoilers, so I can actually come out and say it.
Yes.
Where Dorothy finds out that she is Flora was just struck me as so, powerful and so realistic.
I cried when I wrote that. I don't usually cry when I write, but I just loved the idea and the theme of how she was looking for herself and how much we are doing the same thing all the freaking time. Like, who am I? I'm looking, right? And she's obsessed with the lost children of Pied Piper when she is one. And
had no idea.
Had no idea, right? So, the idea that we're looking for who we are when we're like right in front of ourselves. It's just a fascinating concept.
But it wasn't always her. I mean, I know this because I've heard you talk about it so many times, but I think it's fascinating that you originally wrote a different ending. So
Yes.
do you want to talk about that a little bit? How you turned in one version of this book and what was the spark that made you say, wait a second,
It's
I'm gonna
not
reel
right.
this back in. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the beginning, okay, so I'm going to rewind just a little bit. We talk a lot on the show about whether we're plotters or pantsers, or I sometimes use the term that I stole from Neil Gaiman, architect or gardener, right? And I did plot out a good bit of this book because it was a mystery, right? And I don't usually write a mystery kind of book. And I mean, it's so much more than a mystery, but there is a mystery and we had to find out what happened. And so I had decided ahead of time, because I needed to feel safe. I had decided ahead of time who Flora Lee was and what happened to her. And so it was Peggy all along. It was the author. And I was going to throw in some red herrings, which I did. And I finished the book and my agent loved it. And all my first readers loved it. And we were ready to take it to market. And I was sick. I got COVID in December of 2021. And we're taking it to market in January of.
Oh, so continue. I'm sorry. We have a pop in in a moment for a question.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait a minute. And then I had so then I got sick and I was working on laying on the couch was all I was working on. Hi, Michelle.
Hi,
and
Michelle.
I was working on the couch and I was watching Mayor of Easttown. Have you guys seen it? Oh my gosh, it's so good. And there is this incredible twist at the end of Mayor of Easttown. And you say to yourself, I didn't see that coming, but of course that's who did it. And I wanted that. And I called my agent and I said, I don't think the ending is right. I think I need to just give me some time. And she was like, no, it's perfect. And I said, just give me 2 weeks. And I walked around and walked around and walked around and took long walks. And it came to me that it was already in there. And that is the incredible part of trusting your work. and being able to move away from the outline and say, I don't feel like it's right. Like there's a gut instinct, there's more. And that some other part of me, some writer part of me knew the ending, even though I had plotted something different, because it was already, I didn't have to change anything in the book, anything except the last like 70 pages, because it was already in there. And I was like, holy shit, she's in there looking for herself. Like this one, because I didn't even know why I had Dot.
I love it.
Like
Well, I love that
she,
you said that when you told your agent, I would like to rewrite this, and she said, it's good the way it is, it's fine. And you said, I don't want fine.
I don't want fine.
I love that because
I
you
don't
want it to
want
be
fine.
great. And I think it would have been lovely and good and maybe not, but it's so perfect the way it is. And I know
I
what
just,
you
it was,
mean.
and Meg, I think what would have happened is exactly what you're inferring, is that it would have been out in the world. And at some point I would have seen it. And I would have said,
It should
oh
have been
my
that.
gosh,
Yeah. Well, at least
it's
then
Dot.
you had two choices, and once everybody read the two choices, they were like, "No, you're right. We're glad for your COVID fever dream."
Yes, exactly. My COVID fever dream.
But it was your subconscious, just
Yeah.
like Dot, Dot's subconscious memories were fighting with her, and same, it just blows my mind.
Well, it's about, and Meg and I have talked about this because it was Kate Morton who talked about it. This idea of trusting the story that you're writing, and if you're trying too hard to follow the exact, that's not where I meant it to go, right? If I'm like right down the middle, and if writing were a paint by number, it'd be a lot easier. But that was a messy process, but it was waiting for me.
Well, we are so glad it was, and it did. Well, I wanted to welcome Michelle, our pop-in book club guest, to ask you a question, Patty.
Hi, Michelle.
Where'd she go? She was
And
on
Michelle,
screen
you can
before.
turn your video on now.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. There you go. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Good to
Nice to see you guys too. Long time no see.
I know, Michelle and I just did a podcast together.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay. Well, good. Then you should be fresh with questions, Michelle.
Well, I had a question, but it was kind of answered, but so I'll go off on that one a little bit. Has that ever happened in a different book where you were so set on the ending, then something happened where you changed it as well, like besides this book?
Not to this dramatic of a degree, but I've never really written a mystery before. The one I'm writing right now is a mystery, and I literally have no idea. And I was talking to my friend Paula about it, Paula McLean, and I said, I've written a lot of the novel, and I said, and I still don't know how to end it. And she goes, why are you insisting on knowing right now? And there's a thing in me that feels safer if I know that, but I'm gonna let it unfold. So yeah.
Do you think you want to write more mysteries or books that have mysteries in it, you think? Like
I do. I think, I'll probably I never say never about anything. When I wrote Becoming Mrs. Lewis, they asked, will you ever write another C.S. Lewis book? I was like, never. Done. I did the research. I wore the t-shirt. I went to the party. I'm done. Right. And then I wrote Once Upon a Wardrobe. So I never say never, but I don't think I would ever write like a murder mystery or a locked room mystery, or I'll leave the dead bodies to Mary Kay. But I do think that almost any book in a way is a mystery. Some are just more forthright about it. So to me, my favorite books have a question that you're trying to answer the whole time you're reading it. What happened to so-and-so? Why did this happen? Why are they like this? So in a way, I think every book is a mystery. It's just whether there is a missing person, a murder. And in this, there was a missing daughter. And in the one I'm writing, the mystery at the moment is what happened to a mother who abandoned her family. So there's always a little, that's more of a question than a mystery, but yes, I think
I love the way you did it in this book. Like it's not like you said boilerplate mystery, but you the stakes were high for, so,
Yes.
you know, Hazel had, you know, there was the relationship she had with Barnaby, that's his name, right?
Yes,
Barnaby?
yes.
Okay. And the job, and was she really ready to throw everything away and going on this quest? And, you know,
Putting it all on the table. Yeah.
it was not, the crux of it wasn't completely and entirely wrapped up in who is Flora. It was also what's going to become of these people's lives if they really do chase these answers down. And so
Yep.
that part of the mystery of the, you know, it felt like a caper, you know, that you were like, oh, what, you know, we're going on this adventure. And I thought it was really well done.
Well, Meg, I love the word adventure because I often thought of it like a quest, right? And if you're
Yeah.
going on a quest or a journey or an adventure, you have to give things up. You have to put things on the line. You have to be willing to lose the job or lose the guy or lose the house if the answer is important enough to get, which she had to weigh at every turn.
Yeah. And if her guy didn't understand that it was that important, she needed to give him up.
No,
Just saying.
I know,
he
right?
had his own problems.
Yep.
I know. She should have left him at the dock. Anyway. Thank you, Michelle, for coming
You're
on and asking that
Good to
question.
see you.
Have a good
Nice
night,
seeing you
everyone.
today.
Take
Have a
care.
great night.
Take care.
Well, Patty, you brought up Once Upon a Wardrobe for a hot second, so I thought maybe we should talk about C.S. Lewis for a minute.
Okay.
Because he's
My
obviously
favorite subjects.
such a huge influence on you, and you've now written, I'll say, 3 books where his work and life play a central role. Obviously, there's Becoming Mrs. Lewis and Once Upon a Wardrobe, but readers will definitely feel Lewis's presence here in the pages of The Secret Book of Flora Lee too. So can you talk to us about your love for Lewis and how Narnia helped conjure your muse once again?
Oh, Meg, you ask the best questions. I should just take you on tour and have you be my interviewer. So this book grew out of a couple things of my Lewis work. One is when I was writing Once Upon a Wardrobe. For those of you who don't know, Once Upon a Wardrobe explores the 7 events in Lewis's life that I can see inside The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And one of those events is, of course, the children being sent away from the cities to the country. That is where Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy came from. But I never knew what it was called. And it's called Operation Pied Piper. And so that alone, when I heard the word Pied Piper and realized that it was a German legend about a piper who played a flute and led children, hello, to their death. Way to name a scheme after keeping children
Rescue
safe after a terrible German legend. So if I had not been researching Lewis's life, I would have never heard the term Operation Pied Piper, which led to this. And then, of course, The Secret World of Whisperwood. I was enchanted, and one might use the word obsessed with Narnia when I was young, but also with Alice in Wonderland, also with any portal that led to a world where I could be what I wanted or where I could be what I was meant to be. So that kind of portal imagination where you walk through something and you're in a world that's in this world, but you're not, has fascinated me because of Narnia since I was a child. And I've always been interested in this fine line between the seen and the unseen, the visible and the invisible, the logic versus the imagination, what is real versus that's not real. Because Hazel and Flora Lee are as real to me and Meg as they are to anybody in the world, right? We've been talking about them for months.
I think they're real to a lot of people now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
So who gets to say that they're not real and somebody else is? So it is because of Lewis, I would definitely say that those things have enchanted me. Now, here's what I didn't realize. Because the subconscious is a dark and murky place, I did know this and forgot, but Lewis's mother's name was Flora.
Oh.
Somebody brought that up at a signing recently. They were like, well, of course, C.S. Lewis's mother's name was Flora. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. It is. I mean, of course I knew that. I wrote about it.
Isn't that funny when that happens? Things that you didn't realize,
Nope.
but had to have had some
Yes,
something at play.
of course. So we only have our own compost pile to work with. And then the other thing is when Lewis was a young child and he had a really difficult childhood, he would hide with his brother Warren, who we called Warnie, in the attic, and they made up their own world, and it was called Boxin'. So he got through his childhood by making up an imaginary world of talking animals and little bunnies who wore suits, and they had, theirs was different because they would have wars and battles, but he and his brother made up an imaginary world to get through some tougher times in their life. So he definitely had a major influence on this novel.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the way Flora and Hazel lie down on the ground to sort of summon Whisperwood. And I did want to ask a question from the chat, and it's past, so I can't recall which book club member it was, but to me, this is a fascinating question. She asked, have you ever considered writing a choose your own adventure book about Whisperwood, where you could choose different doorways to have different adventures?
That's not where I thought that question was going.
Me neither. I have thought about writing a children's picture book of Whisperwood, but I have not thought about choose your own adventure. The whole gist of Whisperwood is that you can be anything you want to be inside Whisperwood. And then the next generation of Whisperwood that Peggy Andrews took it to was, you can be anything you want to be until you figure out who you're supposed to be. But that wasn't the original intent of Whisperwood. She changed it. So I just thought it might make a really great, my grandbabies are with me here, and I keep asking Bridget, what would you want to be? And so we play this game. What would you be in Whisperwood? So I don't know, turn into something.
Oh, that's so
That is
that's
awesome.
so adorable.
She's pretty adorable. If you're on my Instagram, you're already annoyed with my pictures, but sorry. They're here for a month, so what are you gonna do?
Could not be too many pictures. And I will say again, there's so much enthusiasm and support in the chat.
I can't wait to go read it.
It was Hannah, by the way, who asked that
nice.
question.
Great question, Hannah. I'll let you know when I write it.
So a lot of our folks are curious about and we brought him up earlier, Barnaby. And I carelessly said he should have been he deserved to be left at the dock. But both of them had their issues. It was not just Barnaby. You know, Hazel was not open to relationships because she had never, progressed from that. How did you decide how to handle Barnaby and whose heart would win out?
Well, I always knew that. I mean, I like a happy ending. I mean, I even refer to it in my novel. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien says that, one of the reasons we have fairy tales is the consolation of a happy ending. We were going to have one. My daughter, when she was reading the book, my daughter has a 4.5-year-old, Bridget, and she called me halfway through the book and said, I cannot read anymore until you tell me that this 4.5-year-old child is okay. And she was dead serious. She's like, I will. I am so involved in this book and I've stayed up too late, but I'm having so much anxiety. You have to tell me she's okay. And I was like, she's okay. Like, just keep reading. But the original question, Barnaby, I knew that both of them had their brokenness. And that when you bring together two unhealed, broken people, it can't work. And so I gave him, sadly, a very big trauma in his own life that was completely unresolved, right? He had lost a child. His wife had left him, but they weren't really divorced. Her stuff was still in his house. And she, of course, couldn't move on because she was carrying all this guilt. So there was no one to blame. Like, I wasn't trying to make him the bad guy or the cheater or the beater or the gambler.
Right.
They just were two broken people, neither one of them having having had healed at all from the things they went through. And that rarely, if ever, works in the long run. They both needed to heal in their own way. And it's not like he came running back for her. He knew, right? He said, you'll have to come for me, but he didn't fight for it. So I did have a scene where that isn't in the book, because I ended it where I ended it, but I did have a scene where she and Harry run into Barnaby and his ex-wife, and they're back together at a market or something. So that, for me, that's what happened with him, but it never made it into the book.
So Patti, since you were talking about your grandbabies, Edie Cohen is asking in the chat, will you ever use your beautiful grandbabies as characters in a novel? And same person, Edie Cohen, also just said that Barnaby was just the wrong guy.
Yeah, wrong guy.
Wrong
Yep.
guy.
Right.
Nothing wrong with Barnaby, just wasn't right for Hazel.
Exactly. And hopefully he found some healing and got on with his life in a beautiful way. I don't ever use anybody in my life as on a whole, right? I've never written about my family or taken anybody as a whole, but I mean, there have to be pieces of them in Hazel and Flora Lee for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
Megan
sure.
would never have made that phone call, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was very recognizable to her, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, we had another comment from the chat from Mary Beth Enos, and I did not know this, but she says Paddington Bear was a Pied Piper child. That's why he has a name tag and a sick case.
Yep.
Did not know that.
Yep.
How about that?
And he's at a train station.
Is that right? Wow. I never knew that.
Yep.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's part of why I guess I never really talked about this. It's part of why Flora Lee carries around a teddy bear.
Oh, interesting.
Mind blown. Okay. Well, I cannot believe we're getting close to our hour already, because I feel like we have just gotten started with this amazing book. But I did want to give you a chance, Patti, to talk about some of your projects coming up, which you alluded to earlier. And so could you tell us what events you have coming up, what projects you're working on? So
I can't talk about what project I'm working on because I don't know. No, I don't know. Anyway, I'm working on, I'll tell you this, I'm working on it.
We'll stick to what you have coming up.
No, I am working on it and I'm really loving it, but I'm not at the point where I can explain it in any way. But once again, we have an American woman in the South, actually, who must make a quest and journey to England. Right now, I'm 99.9% sure we'll be in the Lake District, which is where Beatrix Potter and Arthur Rackham and all of those beautiful, Peter Rabbit, all of that came out of that area up in the Lake District of England. What do I have coming up? So much fun stuff. We're all going to be together in Chicago and this weekend, which is crazy. On Sunday, we're going to be at the American Library Association meeting together, the Friends and Fiction ladies and Meg and Ron. And then the next big event, then I have a couple events in July, pretty much locally, one in Auburn, Alabama, one in Birmingham. And then we have Christie's launch for the Summer of Songbirds, which I cannot wait. We are going to have so much fun. She has the funniest show planned for us, not only for the launch on Friends and Fiction, but also for the live show. I don't want to give anything away because it's going to be really great. I'll let her announce it. And then I go back on the road for 8 days in August. I'm going to Rhode Island, Nantucket, Cape Cod, Boston, Delaware. So it is my northern tour. Back to Jersey, baby. With
territory.
Yeah, I'll be in Point Pleasant this time. That's what it's called, right? Point Pleasant.
Yes. Yep.
And I'll be with our friend Hank Philippa Ryan in Boston, outside
awesome.
Boston one night. I'll be at the Ocean Reef House in Rhode Island. And then the last week in August, I get to go to Nantucket. And I'll be with our beloved Tim from Nantucket Book Partners. And Ellen, I'll get to sign with her on her Wednesday signings. And Meg will be there with me too.
That's
So
awesome. I can't wait.
I can't wait.
It'll be a fun trip.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing tour. We're gonna have to get travel tips from you guys after all
gosh.
of these tours.
My travel, ask Meg, I was so organized. It was so on Patty-like. It was insane. I had labeled outfits.
Yeah.
Get
I was
out.
impressed. I was impressed with the organization.
Yep. Very
Oh,
amazing.
that's amazing. Well, Patty, if someone hasn't bought The Secret Book of Flora Lee yet and they want to get a signed copy, where should they go?
Ooh.
There are two places that will for sure have them. So Alabama Booksmith is a store in Birmingham that carries only signed first editions, and they have loads of signed first editions of Flora Lee. And if you want it personalized, you just tell them, and when I get home in a couple weeks, I can run by and personalize. You can always send me a self-addressed stamped envelope on the address on my website, and I can mail you signed book plates. Books A Million has signed copies, and you can go online and just order under the signed copy tab, and they have actually thousands, well, hopefully less now, of signed copies. And I think that East Shavers might have some left, but those are the two for sure places where you can find signed copies.
Oh,
That's awesome.
thanks. I'm sure there's plenty of people still who want to gift some copies or also get their.
And if you're still
first copy.
wanting the Barnes and Noble special edition, they are running out. So if you wanted to ever get one of those, they don't print more after they make them. They're done after. Yeah.
It's a beautiful edition, and it has an original essay by Patti in the back, which isn't not included anywhere else.
Yes.
So
It's called The Uses of Enchantment.
love it. Patti, do you want to tell folks what you're reading, and are you all this travel that you have? I know you like to listen to audiobooks on the road. Have you listened to anything great lately?
Okay, I'm reading Summer Songbirds. Meg knows I texted the Fortress today, and she had me by chapter 1. I was like, okay. It is so good. Oh gosh, I've been reading emails the past week. There's so many. I'm looking over at my pile of books. To be honest, I mean, I'm reading all the ones for our show. So this week we have T.I. Lowe with Indigo Isle. We have Catherine Ray with A Shadow in Moscow. I finished Rowley's The Celebrants, which we have coming up. I just finished that one. But I have this book here. I'm looking at it that almost every bookseller recommended to me, so I brought it with me, which is The Postcard. Have y'all heard about that?
Wow.
I've heard about that
Oh
one.
my gosh. So it was just an indie next pick. It's been everywhere. It's called The Postcard, and it's a foreign writer, so it's the American edition. And I don't want to get up, but it's right over there.
It's right over there.
Yeah. I also brought with me, I'm looking down at the pile of books I brought with me, Alice Hoffman's new one. That has a character who escapes into a novel. I mean, if there's ever a Patti book, that's it. So Invisible Hours, it is called. So.
Yeah.
But right now I'm just diving into and loving Summer of Songbirds.
Love that. I can't wait to read it.
Oh,
I'm
that is
also reading
awesome.
this book, and I know I put it in our newsletter, and it has to do with the book I'm writing. It's an Irish author, and it's called 32 Words for Field. And it's about the Gaelic language and how we've always heard like Eskimos have X number of words for snow, but ancient languages never have one word like we do for things. And that having that many words for what we have one word for changes the way you see the world. And I just find that really fascinating.
So cool.
So I'm reading 32 words for field.
Oh, all sound excellent, excellent. Well, Patty, I can't
Wait,
believe
wait,
it, but
before we go, I want to know what you two are reading, please.
Ooh.
Brenda, what are you reading?
Brenda, you go first.
oh, go ahead, Meg, because
Oh, I just finished
I
The
have to
Villa
look up
by
my
Rachel.
title.
I finished The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, which my book club picked. It was great. I thought it was
Was
great.
it? Okay.
Yes. It's dual timeline. There's a villa in Italy and present day. It's a writer and her friend. They're kind of like frenemies. One is a self-help author, the other writes mysteries. They're like, let's go away together, rekindle our friendship, and we can both write and just escape. The self-help is, she's fabulously wealthy, so she's like, I can afford to just send us to this villa. Well, it turns out the villa they picked is where a gruesome murder took place in the 70s when this rock star and his entourage went there for a similar type of retreat, and something terrible happened, and the two storylines sort of intertwine.
Oh, God, that sounds so good.
Yeah, it was really well done. And I finished that, so now I'm reading Susanna Hoffs, who's the lead singer of the Bangles, that 80s band, Walk Like an Egyptian and Manic Monday. It's so good. It's a rom-com. It's a debut. It's called This Bird Has Flown.
I
And
can't wait to read that. It looks
Patty,
so
you're gonna
charming.
love it. I've thought of you several times while reading it, and I know you'll love it. Because it's partially in England. She's American, but her manager is British. And but yeah, it's great. And Ron and I are going to talk to Susanna Hoffs, pinch me, for the podcast sometime coming up soon. So I'm loving it.
Oh, that's so cool. I really want to read that one.
Yeah, Beatrice Williams reviewed it for the New York Times Book Review, and the review made me want to like run out and buy it right away. I almost wrote like a fan note to Beatrice to say how well written her review was. Like,
Oh, that's
it's
great.
just so
Oh,
great.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm reading.
I have
oh,
one more
go
I
ahead.
want to say. I have two more I want to say.
Sure.
I loved The Half Moon by Mary Beth Keane.
Yeah.
Came out at the same time my book came out. And then there's a book coming out in a couple weeks, and you guys are going to see it everywhere, and we're having her on the show, but it's Little Monsters by Adrienne Brodeur.
Oh, yeah.
And it's set in Cape Cod. And I swear to you, she's from Cape Cod. It is a love letter to Cape Cod, and it is so beautifully written. It's her first novel. Her last book was a memoir that went crazy. It has a movie deal. It's called Wild Game, about her mother. It is the craziest mother-daughter memoir you will ever read in your life. And this is her first novel. So I just love it. Anyway, what are you reading, Brenda?
Oh, well, I have a couple things going on. I am listening to Beartown by Frederick Bachman.
Oh, nice.
And I'm reading, there's a series about a beach town, Seagrove in South Carolina, from Rachel Hanna, and I'm up to about book 6.
Oh, nice.
Fun.
So, and then I'm just starting Hedge. I'm trying to remember Hedge's author, Jane DeLury. I
I
just
can
starting
see the
that
cover
one.
with the green grass.
I love the cover.
I did
It
too.
reminds me so much of this thing that we did Lisa and I did in New York City, where we went to this Alice in Wonderland display, and there was this giant hedge and we were peeking out. I'm sure the book is more serious than that based on the starting, but anyway, that's what I've been reading.
And people ask us all the time, like, oh, you don't have time to read between the show and your own writing, but we're writers because we were readers, right? So you don't give that up. It's the lifeblood of everything we do.
Well, it must be a good escape, I would think, sometimes to let yourself fall into something, especially if it's completely different from what you write. Because I mean, I've heard Mary Kay say this a million times, like she doesn't want to read in her genre. She doesn't want to read anything that is seen as similar to her, just because she doesn't want those voices in her head. So, to dive into like a dark thriller, or to dive into some, literary historical fiction, that's completely, it just, the escape must feel good because it gets you out of your
100%.
reality.
Especially if the writing is beautiful, because then you can admire the writing without worrying about like for example, I fell into Kate Morton's novel, right? But I'm never going to write about Australia or a family of 7 being murdered, right? So I'm not thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm absorbing the you know,
Right. Yeah.
and then you asked about audio. I'm still listening, Meg, to Hello Beautiful.
Oh, you are? Okay. I got to get back to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Meg and I started it
how is
together,
that
but
one?
I haven't finished it yet. Yeah.
I have not read that one. That's all great choices. So much to read in so little time.
And I'll
Exactly.
think of 5 when
Patty,
I'm
That's
I
the
know.
theme of Friends in Fiction, right?
Yeah.
exactly. Well, Patty, it has been such an honor to chat with you tonight about the Secret Book of Flora Lee. I've been really looking forward to this. It was a pleasure to read. And thanks so much for spending this hour with us.
It's been great.
Oh, I'm honored. You know, I love to talk about this. And all of you out there, if anybody's still hung around till 7:02, thank you for being there for us. Thank you for all the support for this book. It's been, talk about enchanting. It's been amazing.
Oh.
It is a beautiful book, and we thank you so much for it. Take care, Patty, and
Good night,
safe
y'all.
travel on the road.
Kiss the
Thank
grandbabies
you.
for us.
Can you hear them screaming?
No. I'm
They're
worried
playing
because-
tag or something out there. I don't know what's happening right now. I'm surprised
I-
nobody burst
Dogs
in.
barking.
It's
in
8
my-
o'clock. Don't they have to go to bed?
Yes, it's bedtime. All right, guys.
All right. Love you.
Thanks,
Night.
Patty.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
All right.
Well, that
Gosh,
was
that
great.
was just so good,
I
Meg.
feel like we could just keep talking and talking. There's so many more questions we could ask, but
I know. And you know what? Even though you spent so much time with her on tour, I'm sure there were things that you heard that, you know, you hadn't heard before.
it's true. Even tonight, she said things I hadn't heard before. So, every time we talk about this book, something else comes up. And I know Patty posted this on the book club page, but I would encourage everybody to check out the book club kit. So if you wanted to dive deeper, there's so much ancillary material, and there's like a really cool book club kit, and Patty's travel journal where she did that trip to England and the research trip, and she documented the whole thing. Like all that stuff is there to take even a deeper dive if you're so inclined.
Oh yeah, that's just like treasure.
Yeah, right.
Well, I
know.
did want to mention real quickly that our next book club discussion will be July 17th with Kristen Harmel and the Paris Daughter, which I expect to be just equally amazing.
Yes.
And I
Definitely.
wanted to ask Meg, what's coming up at Friends in Fiction that people might want to know about?
All right. Well, Patty touched on some of them briefly, but I'll tell you the dates and everything. So June 28th, we have Annabelle Monaghan and Megan Miranda. Megan Miranda was supposed to be on earlier in the season, and there was like a scheduling snafu. So we're glad we were able to get her slotted back in. And the after show that week also has a writing team. Their names are Asher Paul and Mary Huddleston, and they've written a debut novel called Piece of Cake, which looks like lots of fun. So that's June 28th. July 5th is Marie Bostwick. Her new book is called Esme Cahill Fails Spectacularly. And then we also on that show is Tara. Her name is Tara, Terah, Tara Shelton Harris. I think the book is called One Summer in Savannah. Oh, you don't have the title off the top of my head. And then July 12th, drum roll, we have Christy's launch episode, which is going to be super duper duper fun. We're going to let her announce what she's got up her sleeve for that, but trust me, it's going to be lots of fun, like the other Friends in Fiction, launch episodes, but all in all completely different as well. July 19th, we have Stephen Rowley, whose new one, The Celebrant, is just out. And then the writing team, Liz and Lisa, Liz Fenton and Lisa Stenke, and they write together. And this new one, I think, is called Forever Hold Your Peace. It's a rom-com. And then July 26th is our season finale. And we have the one and only Ellen Hildebrand joining us on July 26th. And don't forget, this week, our show is June 21st. We have Catherine Ray, A Shadow in Moscow, and we have Hazel Gaynor with The Last Lifeboat. And then on the after show, the Southern novelist T.I. Lowe will join us to talk about her book, Indigo Isle. So that's everything we have coming up on Friends in Fiction. And in the
That
midst
is
of
a
all
lot of
that,
great stuff.
It is a lot of great stuff. And in the midst of all that, we're starting to plan out the fall season now. So there's a lot of moving parts and texts and emails and phone calls and pitches and things flying around, but we're going to put together an amazing season. So we'll have a 2-week break in the beginning of August, and the fall season gets underway August 16th. So hopefully we'll do another one of those sneak preview nights that we like to do, where we can reveal the season to you guys before anyone else hears about it. So stay tuned.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll all be going through withdrawal with 2 weeks without our friends in fiction. But that is a great lineup. And thank you, Meg, so much for co-hosting tonight.
Of course.
You were awesome,
I'm
and
happy to be here.
it was just fantastic to have you.
Happy to be here. And I
So-
hope Lisa's feeling better and getting well.
Yes.
Everybody's sending you your our love, Lisa. Lots of hugs.
Yes, Lisa, we missed you and look forward to having you back. But appreciate Meg for stepping in. And I guess all I can say now is PB and Meg out.
Peace out,
It's
y'all.
usually PB and J.
I know. PB and M.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Night.